Hello and welcome once again to GAMA Expo Plus. If you are watching at home, we're giving you a little bit of a taste of what is happening at GAMA Expo 2025. We are joined by Carol Rapp and John Stacy, and I'm Sage Ryan.
I'm Carlos Luna.
What are we talking about today, folks?
Spiel.
We're talking about Spiel, I heard, yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about why you're here to talk about Spiel.
Why am I here? Spiel is one of the biggest board game conventions we have in the world, and we already have quite a lot American exhibitors, but also attendees.
Yeah.
So we are very international, and we like to present ourselves here for the US people, say, look, gaming is so international, maybe you want to come over, see how games, tabletop games, card games, TCGs, whatever, work. There you are. And to see how good your games will sell and accepted in
the
Europe.
International market?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is your involvement with Spiel?
I'm running the whole show.
Yeah.
The whole show.
It's like, yeah.
Yes.
Well,
So, pretty big involvement.
I'd say that's a big thing.
But I have a wonderful team. One is over there. One is accompanying me. So, yes, we are a team of 10 by now.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, and we are organizing that big show of 200,000 attendees.
Oh, my
wow.
goodness.
And roughly 1,000 exhibitors, yes.
Wow.
That's
when
a lot for
does
just 10 people.
Yeah, when does Spiel take place?
It is 23rd to 26th October this year.
October.
Yep.
Great.
That's so exciting. That's a massive number of people. There's only 10 of you coordinating that. That's incredible skill.
Yes.
That's unbelievably impressive.
Thank you. It's quite a task.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite part of Spiel? Of the week?
Oh, that's a very tough question. There are so many highlights coming up. So from the first time entering the halls and seeing everything in setup, or better said, half empty halls, and then see the big ones setting up their spaces. And then with every day you see more and more space crowded by people. That's cool. Then we have that Wednesday, so the pre-show day, where we have that so-called novelty show, where every exhibitor, every publisher can present their new games to the content creators, to the media, but also to other publishers, so directly have that B2B conversation about, okay, I have a cool game, do you like to localize it for your market, and all that. And then Thursday morning when the halls open and you see that whole crowd entering the space and running through and all the happy faces. So that is really
that's
magic.
beautiful.
Fantastic. Is there key differences that you see in the States versus what you have back home?
Oh, sure.
Are there things that like you take away, or like even John, are these things that you see that you're like, oh, we got to do this over here?
Well, yes. I mean, they are really a leader in the industry of running conventions.
Yeah.
And so I've gone there for a number of years now, and we find something a little new each year. 3 years ago, we started our immediate first look at program here, which is very based on their novelty data that they have.
Okay.
And so we have, I think, 60 publishers showing off their products at this show to the media and to retailers. And so we kind of took that, a little bit of that. And they had a great prototype 2 years ago, I remember, in the Hall 4, which was just great to watch the game designers show off their thing. And they have a very robust education program, too. On Friday, you have the Educators Day, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. And so it's just a great show, both consumers but also for trade. Everyone in the trade is there because it is the biggest show in the world.
Yeah.
That's true.
And what about for you?
For me, one of the biggest differences... Sorry, I'm still fighting with that.
With the mic.
Yeah. So one of the biggest differences is we are, let's say, more or less an exhibition show. So we have 6 halls full of exhibitors, which is great. And the great, let's say, vision is, since we started more than 4 years ago, that every person coming to the show finds a spot to playtest a game. And that's happening directly with the publishers on their specific spaces. So we do not have that big open gaming areas that you guys have here in the US, for example.
okay.
When I look at Gen Con, they have a full hall of
just
simply
to play.
tables and play games. Or contests, I mean. But anyway, so that's a big difference. And you also have all the little, or small, medium, and large-sized convention rooms that are used for more demos, for panels, and all that. And again, we are in Germany, so the culture is quite different. We like to have that a little bit more at our show, but the location is not able to host that.
Okay.
Because we have some conference spaces, but they are so far off from the halls that nobody will find them.
Yeah.
So it's
Or
primarily
only-
all
Or
one big
find them.
space.
So it's a little hard to find some of those
Yeah,
rooms.
it is.
Yeah.
They're hidden somewhere.
They are.
And so we try to bring the people to those spaces and introduce them to panels or
Yeah.
that educational program. But it's very hard. So that's where we need to think in new ways, find different solutions for it. But we want to have it more interactive. Yeah.
Yeah. And what role does kind of GAMA play in this connecting with the international market and international members of GAMA with
Sure.
Spiel?
So, we have members in 36 countries, about 1,800 companies, and so we go to Spiel because a lot of them go there. We also go to the UK Games Expo, but that's a lot more consumer than trade for our purposes. Spiel's the place to be in Europe if you're looking for trade. And so we go there. We have a very large reception. They have booth parties, which are different in the United States. They don't have parties on the whole floor after hours. But in Germany, they do with beer and refreshments and all that stuff.
I've heard about the parties.
And so it's just crazy and mad. So Carol was nice 2 years ago. Let's use their prototype area, and we had over 200 people there for the receptions. This past year, we were a different area, and we were spilling out in the halls, and it was like a fire hazard. And fire marshal hopefully didn't come by, but it's such a really collegial atmosphere there at the show, and so it's one of the highlights of the year for me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like you both probably spent a lot of time on experience about what they will be experiencing when they walk through the doors, when they're at a table, when they're talking to someone at a publisher. Can you walk me through like that type of process? Like I imagine a lot of it is like feedback that you hear later on, but like when you sit down with your team to start thinking about these things, like how granular are you getting? Are you like, it'd be cool if there was a sign here where it's like, okay, well they need to see this first and they need to feel like this, like how granular are you getting with that?
I mean, we are not the ones to decide what the exhibitors are showing or what will be the highlight of the show, because we only know they booked a big space, they have a small space, but we want to create a specific atmosphere.
Okay.
So we divided the halls into areas, like we have 3 halls full of family or more casual games, because we know that people coming from one certain entrance, they are more attentive to that. And then we also have a very core gamers hall where, of course, the pure hobbyists will enter first and try to get as many promos as possible in the very first 60 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like gold mining time.
Okay, yeah.
Gold rush. So that's really fun to see. But we also have that people coming and just discovering the things. So we try to welcome them all and to create that specific attraction for them that we of course need to understand who are they, when or what do they want to see, and to bring the right exhibitors or special events to the show. So since last year, we are the European part of Golden Demon, because Games Workshop decided to have their European competition at our Spiel.
Wow.
And that's a wonderful collaboration, because it opened up a whole new target group for us, and they bring so wonderful painted miniatures to the show, which is a new attraction for the normal visitors, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what we are looking for, and what we try to connect and to create.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
For publishers that are thinking about exhibiting at Spiel for the first time, whether that be this year or it might be a little late for this year,
No, it's
next
still
year,
open.
thinking ahead for that have maybe never done an international show, do either of you have any advice for a publisher that's looking to do their first, like an American publisher, looking to do their first exhibit internationally?
First, talk to Jonna and the team.
Okay, yeah.
Because
Step
they
one.
know the show. And they also know a lot of, let's say, legal difficulties to bring goods to Europe, or how to ship stuff over.
Yeah.
Because that's what GAMA is for, to help people in the industry. And we are really happy to have them. And we are also starting with with an U.S. representative. So we have a contact person here in New York that is available and can answer questions. So yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible. But of course, there are some, let's say, obstacles to find a way around.
I bet.
It's a bit of a windy path sometimes.
Yeah. It's a challenge, but it sounds like a challenge very worth undertaking.
Yes.
Yeah. What's the best place to start with something like that? Like you're.
So again, reach out to us. So we have a lot of members in Germany.
Yeah.
And so just European in general. And so there are obviously lots of issues of getting product into the country. There are definitely some rules and regulations you have to be aware of to get through customs. I know we got our banners 2 years ago caught in customs, and they arrived the Monday after the show ended. So we had a Bear booth the entire weekend. But it was so kind of fun because it created a conversation like, this is Bear booth. Like, yes, come and talk to us about that.
Yeah.
And we had a point to think this is the pain point we're experiencing, and you might experience too. Let's talk about how we prevent it for next time.
Yeah.
And so that was really kind of a fun but not so fun experience.
Yeah.
But we also have a lot of members that we can connect you with too. If you're in a similar kind of size publisher, go talk to this company. They may have some ideas, suggestions for you, what you need to be at this show. And I do recommend at least go to the show as an attendee to see what the show is first, get a feel for it, because it's a big step forward to be an exhibitor there, as opposed to just being an attendee at that show.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good advice.
Yeah.
Come and visit the show, get the feeling for it, and then the next time, come with a small booth.
Yeah, and I think that's good advice for every convention, every kind of like an expo like this, is to come and experience it, to know how to actually succeed at it. Because if you're coming out here, you're trying to figure out where everything is, you're trying to figure out what any of this means, because there's so many different types of terminology for different events, to really kind of learn the lay of the land before you try to exhibit at something, so you can knock it out of the park with that good first impression.
Yeah, we've been talking about this year maybe organizing a group tour, for lack of a better word, for people who are interested maybe in the future being there.
Yeah.
Putting together so that you're not alone doing it. And we can all go as a group
great.
over, get some hotel rooms together, figure out how the subway, I pronounced it wrong, the subway works.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever. And because that's how you get around there. And it's a very efficient system, but it takes a little tricky to figure out the first couple of times, especially if you don't speak German. So there's a few phrases you probably should learn before you go there. I went to this restaurant, I ordered a gyro. And it was a plate with fries and gyro meat on top of it. And I thought I was getting the wrap. And no, you need to order the Euro Classic. Okay, I'll make that next time.
Okay.
But there's little nuances like that you have to figure out.
Yeah, I can't imagine having an efficient public transit system. It must be terrible when you visit here. You're like, how do I get around if you're used to having real transportation?
Uber helps.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
How do I know if I'm ready? How do I know if I'm ready to go to a convention? Like, that's probably like a question you guys get where you're like, am I ready to start flying international with my game? Like, what would you say? What's some advice you would give someone, like a new creator?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I think you never feel ready, frankly.
Okay. Yeah.
And we have a huge imposter syndrome in this industry, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not really worthy. I shouldn't bring this game to market. No, you have an idea. Let's make it happen, right? And so take a chance and meet somebody and talk to them, saying, should I do this? And I'll talk to Will Niebling, too. He's been to 40-some of these spiels.
Oh, wow.
He was a huge early adopter coming over from the United States. And he has lots of stories.
Great.
He's a lot of fun. He's a great guy. And but just talk to people and ask them, hey, what's the experience like? What should I know? What should I be afraid of? Nothing. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And if you're there, and then, I don't know, will the Light Festival be this year, or is that because the date changed? Does that make a difference?
It should be on at that
There's
time.
this phenomenal downtown, a light show every year. It's like this a festival of lights, where they light up the center area with they have 10 or 12 different areas you can walk around the city. It's actually beautiful. And that's one of my highlights every year that I go down there, too.
Yep.
And the food's amazing, too, by the way. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Strong recommendations. What about from your side of things?
Yeah, I think you're never fully prepared to do a show overseas. And I had to organize previous shows in the U.S. And I was so overwhelmed with everything to prepare here. So I can tell you from my point of view, you can never be ready for it. Just try it. And the team will help you. Ask them and they will give you good advice. Okay, look for a hotel. Yeah. Okay, do you want to be very close or do you want to save some money? So we can offer you this city.
Yeah.
Have a look there. It's easy to go with public transport. So we can help. So simply talk to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like, too, I think GAMA Expo and Spiel kind of go hand in hand in that of, like, this might be a really good place to start in the year where you can connect with a lot of people that could be helpful in your journey before you do an international show. Coming here, meeting people that there's going to be so many people here that have done it, have done all of the steps that you are lost and inevitably confused on, because Lord knows I would be, and meeting people that have kind of had that experience and doing something that is really, like, trade focused if you're doing something that is more, if you're doing something more consumer focused or attending as just a hobbyist previously. It seems like that would be kind of a good chain of events, right?
Right.
Start here and almost like graduate up.
Yeah.
Graduate up to that many people. Start with like your direct community, right? I feel like GAMA Expo this is my community here. I'm going to get my rounds of feedback. I'm going to get that.
Well,
moment.
that's really good as well. To just bounce off that, are there certain trends that you see in Germany, like with gaming, that like maybe aren't as big in the States?
Oh, that's also a good question. I mean, we still have that trend of collaborative games. They're pretty strong, especially when they are about climate, for example.
Oh.
So yeah, ecosystem is a wonderful theme. Nature,
cool.
Nature preservance is very huge.
Wow.
That's really interesting, yeah.
Also, still the whole escape thing. So if it's an escape room game or is it an exit or whatever puzzle game, so that's also pretty strong. And I still think it's also strong here in the U.S., isn't it?
Yeah, they're really popular.
Yeah, the exit games and the escape room boxes. That's really cool. It's just such an interesting combination of those two things to hear them together. To be like nature preservation and like escape. Like
save the world or escape from it.
Exactly.
Yeah. This has been a good conversation. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for coming to chat with us.
Yeah,
Super
thank
exciting.
You so much.
It was fun to talk to you.
We really appreciate it. I think we're going to take a quick break, but we will be back, of course, with a little bit more GAMA Expo Plus in just a few minutes, so stick around. Hello and welcome back to GAMA Expo Plus. Thank you for sticking around and hanging out with us. We hope that you're enjoying everything that we've been doing so far. We're joined by two more lovely guests to share something very special. I'd love to just actually throw directly to you.
Yeah. Hey, so I'm Brant from the Armchair Dragoons, and drag Jason Matthews into this with me as well. And we unfortunately had a bit of a tragedy in the gaming world as a whole. It affects wargaming a little more predominantly, but Roger McGowan, who was a longtime board game and war game artist, passed away over the weekend. This was very sudden. His son had put out word that his father was really ill, and the next day it was, hey, unfortunately, Dad has passed away. If you go hit BGG and pull up Roger McGowan's artist credits, he's linked to over 550 games going back over 50 years at this point. And that's just the game stuff that he did. That doesn't count like his time as a commercial artist. He was the look of Avalon Hill for 25-ish years. Just about every board game cover that you saw from Avalon Hill, from GMT, from a whole lot of other magazines. He was also the founder, and I think he was he the publisher or the editor of Fire and Movement?
He was the founder and publisher of Fire and Movement and did most of the work.
And did most of the work back then as well. And he's been in the Origins Hall of Fame since 2004. So look, we throw the word legend around pretty loosely in a lot of cases. This dude's got 50, 60 years worth of track record in the game business, and legend probably undersells it a little bit, that he was the look and feel for wargaming for so many years. And Jason, you were lucky you got to work with him.
I was fortunate to work with him, and it is weird to, I'm not a young man by any stretch of the imagination, but it's weird to have had the chance to work with somebody who you were able to look up to as a kid, and who provided all of these amazing memories, and then to get the chance to actually collaborate with them and work with them is a very special kind of privilege. I think for anybody in wargaming, as Brent was alluding to, when you even conceptualize what a war game looks like, the graphic design of a war game, you're really thinking about what Roger McGowan had been doing.
Yeah.
And he kind of invented a genre that actually he didn't just work in the wargaming space. He was also a prolific fantasy artist for Dragon Magazine and everything else that was happening in the 70s in our hobby. But I was lucky because he was also one of the founders of GMT Games, which is the largest war game publisher. And he was the artistic director at GMT Games, and I was a little baby board game designer with a design no one had known or cared about at the time. But he got assigned to work on the cover, and of course I was floored to have the chance to talk to him and get to know him. Roger had a very particular style for most of his cover work, particularly, and it was kind of a photorealistic style, so anybody in wargaming could look at a cover of a Roger McGowan game and be like, oh, that's Roger.
I know
it's
whose
clearly,
art that is.
Yeah, exactly. So it was that, and I got the proof back of his design for Twilight Struggle, and I was like, this doesn't really look like a regular Roger McGowan cover. And then
there's no portrait on it.
There's no portrait on it. This is not a famous photo of a historical event, digitized. And so he explained to me what his process was with Twilight Struggle, which was that he had gone back to his roots. In his early days as a graphic designer in Los Angeles, he was hired by a big firm, usual kind of experience for folks in that field, and one of their clients was a science fiction magazine. And his job at the firm was to design the covers for this science fiction magazine. Yeah. And so he was calling on that experience when he designed Twilight Struggle's cover. And the second he said that, I'm like, oh, I get exactly what you're doing.
Yep.
And I love everything about this cover. And then when the game came out and was a hit, everybody else loved the cover as well. And so I've seen it on cupcakes. I've seen it on birthday cakes. I have a Christmas stocking with the cover on it. So it was an amazing piece of iconic work. And in every game that I have done with GMT since, we've incorporated a little homage to his, like an Easter egg or something that incorporates his iconic work onto the new cover.
Yeah,
and so it's awesome.
I think one of the best ways to kind of appreciate Roger's art style and the influence and the love people had for the art. There aren't a whole lot of games out there that sell dozens, if not hundreds, of posters of the cover.
That's right.
And RBM Studios made a pretty good living selling posters of Roger McGowan covers that decorate a lot of game rooms around the world anymore these days. And really, when you think about wargame artists, board game artists as a whole, but wargame artists in particular, there's two names. It's Red Simonson and Roger McGowan.
That's right.
And everybody else. And,
right.
And that's really where you are. I mean, it's that tier. And, you know, look, we were talking with Steve Jackson earlier today, and it was you were creating the template. Roger created the template for a lot of those things, not just the cover art's what's famous, right? That's what you see on the shelf. But Roger unifying the look and feel of the game, not just from the cover to all the components, the counters, the maps, whether he was doing them or just overseeing somebody doing them. There is a unity to the games that Roger worked on.
That's exactly so. And created a standard of excellence that we judged everything that came after Roger's work by. And
usually
so,
poorly. Unfortunately, Roger's so darn good that the rest of us paled in comparison. So
sad but true.
He was just that kind of good. But I just, with him having passed away this past weekend and having the opportunity here, you know, with Gamma Live, and thanks to John for giving us the opportunity to sort of take a moment and talk about it. The guy was a titan in the game business for a lot of years. He's worked in what was increasingly a niche compared to the rest of what Gamma does, but he's a legit Hall of Famer. That's not a euphemism. He is in the Origins Hall of Fame, and it seemed worth taking a moment to mention and memorialize the fact that Roger is unfortunately no longer with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on to talk about it. Thank you for sharing your personal experience. I think that's a wonderful version of Meet Your Heroes, right?
Indeed.
I think that's really beautiful. So thank you very much.
And thank you guys for the time to do it.
Yeah,
a pleasure.
absolutely.
Thank you guys
for sharing it with us. We're going to take another moment, and we'll be back in just a sec. All right. Hello and welcome back to GAMA Expo Plus. How much did you miss us in those moments? Be honest. We are joined by the lovely Heather and Monica to talk about some excellent points in the process. If you are interested in making games, there's a whole lot of steps that we've been exploring throughout this live stream, and these are two really unique kind of steps in the process. So if you would start with just an introduction, who you are, what you do, and what you're here to talk about.
All right, so my name is Monica. I'm one of the organizers of Proto ATL, so of course that's in Atlanta. Our tagline is design, network, and basically playtesting for your games. So that is our main thing.
Great. Hi, I'm Heather O'Neill. I'm on the board of Unpub, which is the Unpublished Games Network. It's a nonprofit that also helps new designers with education, workshops, mentorship, and a lot of playtesting. It's kind of where you get your start if you want to get into the industry as a designer.
That's really wonderful. That sounds like great opportunities for people to kind of explore their options, find support systems early on in the process.
Absolutely.
I know a lot of publishers that we talk to are like, I've been doing this alone, and I didn't know what any of the steps were. What would be, and we'll start with you.
Yeah.
What point in the process do you feel like is a good place for people to come to you and begin there?
I feel for Unpub specifically, it's unpub.org, by the way, which we can go over at the end.
Absolutely.
But Unpub is one of those, I'd say, first steps. Like, you think you want to make a game, it's on an index card, you want to be going there.
Wow.
Because it's like, there's probably all these things you think you know that you don't know, and all these things you don't know that you need to know. So it's, before you go too far down the process, the perfect place to start. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And what about for you? Where does this come into the process?
So I feel like ours, like Heather and I have talked about, ours is more of like the refined games, and our seminars are more focused on, you're definitely welcome to come in with your index cards and your sticky notes and everything, but ours is more on that really industry networking, making that design something ready to sell. So we have publishers there that are shopping to buy their next game, or they're shopping to look for their next game. But this year we're actually doing a big movement on more of the fund it and make it type of thing.
Oh, okay.
Like, if you wanted to go the self-publishing route, it's such a scary thing, like, to think about that I could make my own game and self-publish it, work with a company in China to like produce that game and get it to the consumers somehow. Like, it seems quite overwhelming that it's easier just for me to like have this design and have a company pick it up and put all their development into it. So we're really focusing our seminars this year on the game development. How we have GameFound that's coming, and we're doing a big design challenge there. So GameFound is a crowdfunding platform. So they're going to be talking about how easy it is to put your game up on their platform. And this design challenge, they're going to be giving away over $4,000 in like ads and white glove help and everything. So really this year, fund it and make it. And we are going to really push on that. We still will have the publishers there that'll want to buy your game, like if you have a cool idea and stuff. But it's a lot of networking, a lot of that, where, Heather and Unpub, I have been to their convention, and it's fabulous. They have so many good seminars. They're so strong with teaching people about the industry and about how to make games and everything. And then ours is like, what do you do next with that game? How are you going to make that game a reality? So
and like where we kind of fall in is like, hey, is it that index card game, or is it this beautiful, polished, you're the artist game that's just ready to kickstart? Totally fine. Both are welcome there, but we focus more on getting that designer ready for what they need to do, as opposed to any kind of, not necessarily promise, but any kind of plan to get published. It's more education, walking them through the process, best practices, honing their skills, learning that, and then kind of getting into the industry and networking, and then hopefully moving to you, and then going and getting funded and being the biggest game company, right? That's kind of the process,
I would love it if you expand a little bit more. You said mentorship and learning, and those were two pretty strong pillars of this. I would love if there is somebody who has that index card game that's like, what is available to me in the learning and mentorship opportunities?
Absolutely. So there used to be a group called the Tabletop Mentorship Program. Unfortunately, they had to shut down during the COVID times, and it was kind of out for a couple years. Luckily, I had reached out from Unpub, and they wanted to partner with us. So now it's part of Unpub, and last year we ran a mentorship program for 12 weeks. So this is all things. It's not just game design. It's editing, art, graphic design, business, being a publisher, being a retailer, all kinds of things. We opened it up to all of the entire industry. And you have 12 weeks where you set a little goal. You try not to do everything, but you're going to have incremental success in those 12 weeks. Maybe you never knew how to make a sales sheet or a pitch video. By the end of the 12 weeks, that's your goal. Not, I'm going to make $1 million on my game, right?
Yeah.
So we have that set up, and that'll start this summer as well for this year. We do it once a year. And then we also have a lot of learnings and educations that are both streaming on, YouTube and Discord and stuff like that, but also in person at our conventions. And these are things like the foundations of feedback, like what to receive, how to take that and not just say everything someone told me I'm going to do, but not listen to them either, right? Or maybe something like, how do I make a prototype if they're that early on, right? Or we might have that 201, 301 class where it's how do I balance this mathematically? And you get really deep into it, right? Or how do I take this concept and make it feel right on the table, right? So we have both ends of it, but it's much more on that end than about selling the game, I would say, even though that does happen there. Sure. But I would say that's more what we focus on.
Yeah, seeming like starting of where to make a really good game first.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On her mentorship program, I signed up. I'm an event manager, so I'm not a designer. I haven't made any games or anything, but I said I'm just going to sign up to just be part and see if anybody wants a mentor as an event manager.
Yeah.
And so I really like how their program is inclusive. They did have that outlet. If I wanted to help in the industry, that I could. And they really do. Both of us try to include all aspects of the industry. So if you're an artist, if you are a rules book creator, any of that stuff, you should and you are welcome to come to these conventions and find your people and find opportunities to do your work and your craft. But the mentorship program, I can't talk enough about that.
Yeah.
It was a really good experience.
I'm so excited about it. Yeah. And one thing you just said that reminded me is I think for especially someone who thinks they want to be a game designer and make a game, sometimes they realize, nope, actually don't want to do that. and maybe they go, what I liked was the layout of the cards and the art. Or maybe they said, I really like because I'm a content creator, or I want to do the videos and the little quippy things. And then they realize, oh, there's a lot more that goes on here. I don't want to do that. So this, in the early stages, they get to do that. Maybe they talk to a mentor too. Maybe they go to a pitch thing or an event. Next thing you know, they're changing their path, but it's great. Go for it. So so that's really awesome.
That's
and then
so interesting.
And then Monica as well, you were saying, you felt included. We want to include everybody. It doesn't matter if you are a game designer or not. You're still in the industry.
Yeah.
You're affecting what's happening in the industry too. So we have a lot going on. It's just the easiest way to describe it is playtesting events sometimes, but we do a lot more than that too.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And what a lovely, it sounds like both of these are just beautiful non-judgmental spaces where you're allowed to be at where you're at in your process and allowed to be learning and kind of move through it with other people supporting you.
The first time I came to a prototype convention, it was Proto ATL. I didn't start the company or anything. It was a group of 2 other people that had started it. And what I felt like was it was the most creative experience I've ever had. Wow. You have these brilliant people, and just the creativity that comes out of it is it gave me goosebumps right now just to see all these connections that people are making and these awesome games that come out of it. But I advise anybody, if you have 3 or 4 days, to come to either of the conventions and just have this creative experience of networking with amazingly talented people.
That's a really good point, which is you can attend these things if you're not a designer. You can attend and just play all the games. And on one hand, that's exciting because you're oh, maybe I got to play Wingspan before Wingspan came out, for example, which was one of the ones in Unpub, which is awesome. Yep. Or maybe it's I just did this really wacky thing that would never work in the real world, but we got to have this cool 2-hour experience or something like that. So you're right. It's super fun. Every time I leave one of these events, I'm ideas. I got to do this. This is going to be so cool. So it gets the juices flowing no matter, what your motive is for going.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
That's
fun.
Inspirational.
That's so cool. I found I was working on my own game.
Okay.
Small game with a group of friends, and we're like, oh, this will be easy. It'll be a one-sheet thing that we'll just throw up online. People can download. And we felt pretty good about it, and we threw it up online with only playtesting ourselves. Like, oh, this is fantastic. And then the feedback of like, but what does this mean? But what does that mean? And things that you just like take for granted of like, oh, we communicated this and we also know each other. So it's like that feedback loop is so incredibly important.
Yes.
If you sign up for one of these events, if you go to one of these events, what's like an average day like for some, like let's say for that example of like,
with yours, or?
Like I made a little game. I made a little one-sheet game. What can I expect to like do or learn, or what should I take advantage when I'm there?
Both of ours are a little bit different. So ours is, they call it Protospiel format, where you basically walk in. So the four of us would sit at a table together, and at Proto ATL we try to push like for 20-30 minutes for you guys to try my game and give your feedback. And these are like, like designers that have played a lot of games. Their feedback is better than like your grandma playing it at the kitchen table. Like these are like really good people that they know what they're talking about. So ours is very like, I put my game out for 20 minutes. Maybe there's this one part of my game that I need feedback on, and you guys are able to do that. We're not going to play the whole thing. And then she's going to put out her game. We all are. And then we're going to kind of like rotate around. It's not like a time clock or anything.
Gotcha.
Right. So we do that. And so we have a pretty full schedule. We have networking events every night. I'm kind of heavy on parties. So like we're gonna have a pizza party on a Thursday night, and it's all about networking, because you have the time when you're focused, but where the relationships and partnerships build are at these like networking events where people team up and say, I have this strength and you have this strength and I want to make this happen. So parties kind of every night. And then just very open format where you guys have tables.
So slightly what's different, and also you mentioned like a one sheet. Definitely we've got the gamut. We actually do have role-playing games too, which I forgot to mention. Role-playing games, storytelling games, miniatures games, card games, strategy board games. It's kind of all over the place. Probably LARP is the only thing we don't do.
Nice.
Yet. But
welcome.
Or video games yet. But basically, an average day is usually like some sort of panels in the morning type of thing, going into like a social event, and then going into like a signature event, like a Shark Tank style pitching, or karaoke, or like a keynote speaker. And then some of the days are just fully focused on playtesting, like 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. with different little blocks. So designers will take a 2 or a 4 hour block of time, and then they're staggered throughout the whole day. And it's maybe like 80 tables. And as an attendee, you can walk in and just look around and just take it in, or we have like an app that you can see like what games are there to play, and then there's a QR code to scan. You can put your feedback in. The designer gets all that feedback at the end, which is really good.
Nice.
And those play testers get put into raffles to win prizes for giving feedback. So it encourages them to give more feedback too.
Oh my God,
So we kind of have a system for feedback, and then we do all kinds of different meetups. Like there's meetups for like women and non-binary designers, or a signal boost for different creators. We have like a morning sessions where it's like, hey, we're going to do photography for your prototype. Come bring it and set it up, and we'll like help you.
Nice.
We've done headshots before. So, I mean, it depends on the year, but we have those kind of things. So it's great, like you were saying, if you're new, we're going to have things for you that you haven't done yet.
Yeah.
If you are graduated from us or whatever, and you are really ready to pitch, we can help with that. Games get signed there, but you would probably want to start also doing prototype spiel events as well, I think.
Yeah, and our seminars are definitely more advanced. Like it's like the game development stage. Like you've done a really good job, but now you need assistance in development, or you need to know how to put your game onto GameFound, because I'm ready to sell it myself, or I need to know how a factory in China makes games. Like I'm at that point. Like I need to know that. Like so it's definitely focused on the more advanced. So they work very well together.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
That's really great. What is something, and this will be for each of you.
Sure.
What is something that would help somebody before they come out to your event? Something that you wish people would be prepared with or know coming in?
That's great. So one of the things is, as you mentioned before, There's a lot of networking in the tabletop industry. It's a smaller industry than you think. You might see Ravensburger and Hasbro stuff and think it's this big industry. It's really not. So if you're a shyer person and you're not comfortable walking up to people and that's not your thing, maybe be a little bit ready to do that, or bring a friend who can do that for you, or start reaching out. There's when you sign up, there's going to be a mailing list that you'll be getting information. You can join the Discords. You can be on the social media, talking, meeting people. Hey, what are you doing? What are you bringing? Easing that a little bit. And then attending like the welcome panels and, understanding what the schedule is so that you can be prepared. So this is, even if you are a very gregarious person, you might just have never done something like this before. So, prepare, look at past panels, go into the Discords and ask questions. And one of the awesome things I think about at all levels is people want to help you and want to see you succeed.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's definitely not a cutthroat like my game better get more play tests than your game. It's a super, super great thing, and I think it's a lot of creators helping creators too. So it's maybe a little scary to come up and talk to the person running it, but hey, we're next to each other. Hey, how do you do this? Or have you ever been here before? Yeah. So just being comfortable asking those questions, I think. And trying new things.
Yeah, there's a lot of social aspects.
Yes.
I know as a nerd, I'm like, this is not in my nature to approach strangers.
Yes.
There's definitely a mental preparation.
Absolutely.
And what about for you?
I agree with everything that Heather said, but there was one, main thing, which is their sell sheet. So if you should have, some very basic documents, which is a one-page sell sheet. I also recommend bringing your own acrylic stand to put your sell sheet in, and of course your prototype. I also like to encourage a design journal, just to take notes, and maybe I might even encourage your audience to, for 30 days, I want you to do a design challenge. Just take any notebook, like one of those notebooks from the Dollar Tree, and for 30 days, just write something, sort of a design idea. Like it could be a word that you heard on NPR, or it could be I'll give you one of my examples real quick. I saw this hurricane warning symbol, and it was like this S sign. And I was like, what if I could use that shaped tile and do something with it?
Wow.
And I adjusted it to be, I'm not going to give my whole idea, but something kind of unique in the industry. But look around, and once you do this for 30 days, your brain becomes more creative. You see design in everything you're doing. We're looking across at us with a wood panel wall right now, and maybe those could be roads, or maybe you just start seeing things in a different manner. Awesome. So bring your design journal, 30 days, just write something. Bring your design journal, share your ideas with somebody else. They could be inspired, to add something to it. And games are literally created at our conventions. There's a company called the Game Crafter. Are they also a sponsor for you guys?
Yes.
So the Game Crafter sponsors, both of ours. They send us boxes of prototype pieces, blank cards, blank dice that you can write your little symbols on, and literally us four could be inspired to do something together, and a game will literally come out of one of our conventions, and a new partnership.
Absolutely. I have created a game at one of those conventions in the past because before I was on the board and while I was on the board, and some of those games we later got published. So it doesn't mean that's always going to happen, but sometimes you're just I have this game and this is the thing I'm focusing on. Throw that out the window because I thought of this thing while I was getting coffee, and I made a prototype, and now it's the best thing ever, and we're really cranking along. So you got to be also ready. That's a really good point to change things, be open to things. It's like that kill your darlings thing. You might be super, super into this, and all the feedback, you're but I don't want to change that one thing. And I get it. Sometimes you don't, but that is something else to think about. Kind of prepare that you're going to be getting in a lot of input, and just take it in, and then later kind of stew on that and see if it works.
That's so cool.
It might take 5 designs. It could take 15 prototypes before you really find something that is going to stick and that's going to be good in the industry and that people want. So like Heather said, be okay with like rejection, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, be okay with if something doesn't work, and be super open to other people's ideas. Nobody is trying to steal your idea. We get that a lot. Like, if I bring my prototype, somebody's going to take this.
Do I need
like,
an NDA? It's
Right.
like, no.
Do I need to trademark this? Like, no. Like, come with your idea. Nobody's going to steal your stuff. They might steal like a mechanic. Like, if I talked about what I was going to use those S's for, those hurricane signs, you might take it.
Can't give that away.
But like, but you inspired them to create something.
Yeah.
So nobody's going to take your idea.
Yeah.
Just come.
That's
and
All
share.
art
So
is
funny.
inspired by something.
Exactly.
Everything you do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can't tell you
Exactly.
how frequently, in walking around at any convention, we walk up to a booth, they go to explain what their game is, and it starts with 2 references. It's like, this game meets this game.
Oh, yeah.
Or have you ever played this game? Then you
Yeah.
probably have a good idea of how this
Absolutely.
mechanic is
Yeah.
going to work. And that's a great tool to have, to be able to communicate how your game works.
Absolutely. And we've talked about right? Let's talk about like faux pas, right? What is something like every single little hobby or has their own little culture, right? And sometimes when you're new, you might be making mistakes that you don't even know. Like, we don't do that here. Like, what are some things people should know that are just getting into stuff like, oh, this isn't like...
Absolutely, because this happens a lot. So we have our own convention that like we host, but we also run spaces at things like Origins, PAX East, PAX Unplugged, other BGG Con. So a lot of times we are encountering people that have never been to one of our events. One thing is, it's called Unpublished Game Network. Some people try to bring their already published game and get feedback and sell it at the table. No, there was no selling. The other thing is there's people that are all they do, they don't hear, they just want to try to get their game signed. They're not there to maybe for the right reason. They're there saying, all I want to do all weekend is try to pitch, sell, instead of network, learn, hone the skill, get the feedback, which that selling the game will come from that.
Absolutely.
But just being so laser focused on their end goal and not realize that there's a journey to that goal, I would say those are the 2 biggest things I see at my level. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And
really
that's the same
insightful.
for us. Like, don't be selfish. Don't come in with that hard goal of doing something like that, and be inclusive. Like, if somebody sits down to play your game, they might not be the sales manager at the op, or they might not be such and such, but you don't know who they're going to be. Like, you don't know who our next big designer is going to be. You should be nice to people just to be nice.
Yeah.
But if that motivates you to like do so,
That's a good point,
so value other people's perspectives and come in with a I'm here to help, and believe that other people are there to help you too. And just like Unpub, we don't allow published games at our convention. So even after hours, we say you need to be focused on unpublished everything. That's why we're here.
And I would say I don't think we have like a rule like you can't bring in a game, but you will not see it. Like the fact,
I'll shame you.
You will
like,
not.
What's this?
People are not sitting and playing Scout and Magic the Gathering and stuff. They're maybe playing similar style games. But you might see somebody have something out. You're like, what are you doing over there? Oh no, I'm just it's because I had a mechanic that was kind of like this. Okay, and then the attendees know. So it's all about trying things that are new that aren't yet out yet at all. So there's no competition to be going up against the other games, which is great.
That's awesome. I love that. I love when the community can kind of take care of itself. Like white blood cells. Like, hey, get out of here.
We don't do that here.
We don't do that here.
That means you've really built a very strong community of people that do self-moderate because they care about what this is contributing and preserving that kind of thing. And I think that there is a desolidifying that you have to do to come to these things where it's like you have to be malleable. That it sounds like in a lot of the kind of prep that you're describing of do's and don'ts, it's like if you are already set on something in any way, whether the game is finished or mentally you finished your game, you've decided I think I've got the best version of this game, then you probably don't if you haven't been taking this external feedback. Most of the time it's only going to improve by hearing other people play it if you want to sell it to other people. Then this just isn't necessarily the tool.
And actually that's setting you up for working in the game industry.
Absolutely.
So by learning all these skills at this lower level, right, when you do get your game signed or you do decide to start a publishing company or work yeah, things aren't going to go 100% your way, and the thing you really wanted to do isn't going to happen necessarily, and you have to be able to roll with it. And so it's a good learning just to get into in mindset, as well. Yeah.
That's great for the professional
Awesome.
mindset. So I'd like to go to both of you, and just if people want to come out, tell us the information, links, locations, dates, everything. We'll start with you.
Sure, which is perfect because we have our in-person playtesting convention called the Unpub Festival, March 27th through the 30th in Baltimore, Maryland. You can find out everything at unpub.org. Also, the tabletop mentorship that I mentioned is also on that website too, and the submissions for either being a mentee or mentor open very soon in the next 2 weeks. We're also on Discord, and I believe we have a Facebook group as well that you can just interact with other people who are a part of Unpub.
Yep, so we are right before Unpub. So you'll come to Atlanta, and then you'll fly out to Baltimore. So you got to do both of those and just have 2 weekends of creativity.
Sounds great.
It's Proto-ATL, very simple, protoatl.com is the website, and we are March 20th through 23rd, I believe.
Yeah.
But definitely go check those dates. And like I said before, the most exciting thing that we have coming up is this big Design Star Challenge that GameFound is hosting with over $4,000 in prizes for the winners.
Nice.
Protoatl.com. Those were the dates. Did I answer everything?
I think you did all of
we
it.
got it.
You did wonderful. Thank you so much for being here and talking to us, and also just for how much you contribute to the industry. Thank you for being people that facilitate people making good things.
Yeah,
we think that's really wonderful. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you. This was great. Thanks.
Hey.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, we're going to take another couple minutes, so we'll see you back very, very soon. Stick around.
Bye.